Okay, here we are, Danielle LaPorte. Wow, what a treat.
Jeff Krasno, together, live,
I
first time
know.
here.
Yeah, we're on a Virgin flight. You're busting my Substack cherry, so to speak. Sorry,
Yeah,
starting
just have to
immediate profanity.
start low.
Um,
It's only up from here.
yeah. So yeah, we've been collaborators for so many years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now we collaborate again here on our Virgin flight. So I have been really intrigued with what you're doing here on Substack. It's quite amazing that you've migrated such a audience so quickly, and yeah, this is a really interesting platform for expression. How have you been finding social media for thinking people?
I feel like I'm back to my roots. It feels like people are thoughtful about comments. They want to engage. I don't feel like I am. I have to watch my metaphors because if you just start low, I will just go with low, raunchy metaphors. What
That's
I was going to
okay.
say is I'm bending over for the algorithm, but that is how it feels on other platforms. And here
Hmm.
it feels like there's reciprocity from the top. And I don't feel like I have to turn the microcosm of my life into a documentary to make other people feel like losers about their unfiltered life.
Yeah.
And I love it. I feel relaxed and I feel really excited and it feels like the old days. Best of the old days,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just wading in to the shallow end, but the temperature seems to be right. Yeah, I'm just
Mhm.
happy not to have to wear a bikini, which seems to be sort of the option on other platforms, and I guarantee
Great.
that's not winning me a lot of engagement.
All right.
um, so um, so yeah, and I think that's a good on ramp here into what I want to talk to you about because
Mhm.
you wrote a really compelling piece on Substack. I don't know if that was a couple months ago, but it caught my attention maybe about a month ago
Mhm.
about the nature of AI and life coaching.
Mhm.
And I think the title of it was AI is not your best life coach.
Right.
And, it was interesting to me because I had never really put those things initially together. And then I did a tiny, even the eensy weенsiest bit of research. And I was like, oh my God, this is actually more than a small trend. I mean, I'll read some of it to you, like very quickly. Like in 2025, the global AI coaching market is approaching $7.5 billion, and 30 to 35% of coaches expect AI to completely replace them or augment their roles in the
Mhm.
next couple of years. So I was like, holy moly, a lot of people are actually looking to chat and other platforms for life coaching. I mean, first of all, why do you think that trend even exists at this juncture?
We're lonely, we're dysregulated, there are financial barriers, the collective shadow is up. It is chattier than ever. So we're turning to chat GPT. We're in pain. We're just in pain.
Hmm.
We're crying. Everybody crying about something on a shallow or deep level right now. And there it is. The answer is on it's right there in your hand where you're spending most of your life. Why not? Why not just turn to a disembodied creature that's programmed by an unenlightened society for an immediate answer? Why not? That's why I think we were,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You combine. It's like the equivalent of the bliss point of like salt and fat and sugar, right? So, yeah, we're lonely, we're emotionally dysregulated, we're seeking help, and then there's financial barriers, and just like the convenience of it is right there. You're asking it all these other questions anyways. And it is really interesting. You talk in the article, and we'll get into more of the body of the article, but you talk about AI's proclivity for fawning, and for people who are endlessly seeking validation. I was like, oh my God, yeah, of course.
Mhm.
So can you poke at that for a second?
Uh, AI as a life coach, as a spiritual director, is like this perfect partner for your unhealed stuff. Who
Mm,
in their woundedness, when you're insecure and you're generally like you're walking through life asking if you're worthy enough to get what you want, and then how do you get what you want? Who doesn't want to be told that you're worthy? And it's an excellent question, leader of your generation, like, and that you're the one. Um,
yeah, right.
yeah, it's like that. It's like, in high school, we all had people in our groups who they were the kind of people that just like, do you want to be my best friend? Because they didn't have any other friends, and you felt sympathy, and you felt repelled by the desperation, and they're fawning because chronic stress at
Mm.
home. That's how I feel with this phenomenon. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a strange element of people pleasing in
Mhm,
chat.
mhm,
And I wonder why it was programmed that way. Well, I can understand why, I suppose, because you want maximum adoption, right? So,
mhm,
who wouldn't want their ego adulated?
mhm,
But it is a really interesting phenomenon, because I use chat, and almost everything I ask it, before it answers me, it's prefaced by this. Well, what a compelling, insightful question, Jeff. It is really,
You're amazing.
yeah. And I'm like, well, thank you so much. I feel really good about myself. I'm curious, like, what do you feel about life coaching in general? I mean, outside of using artificial intelligence for it.
I'm 108% for it. I have been extolling the virtues of psychotherapy and life coaches for like 15 years now. I think you need objectivity. I think you need to be witnessed. I think we're all in this together. And I think the power of two humans coming together to look in the dark is a great thing. It doesn't mean the other human
Hmm.
you're engaging with is qualified and they're not going to mess you up even more, but that too is like part of the experience. Like one of the things we're hearing with the AI that's being programmed to coach and counsel people is that experiencers, people who get coached or therapized by it, like the AI coaches and therapists more than the human coaches. But that's not real life. And the
Hmm.
job of a therapist, either they're going to hit every button, either because they're not qualified or that's part of the therapeutic process. You will project your mother issues on the therapist that you are paying to help you work out your mother issues about. And you stay and you work through it, or you leave, or you realize you had the power all along. But if we don't have that tension, if something disembodied, I mean, I would love to talk about
Hmm.
sentiency, is essentially fawning and kissing our ass all the time. Although you will hear people say, well, it pushes me back sometimes. Okay, well, good.
Hmm.
Um, if you don't have that dance, you will you will atrophy.
Hmm.
Your wisdom is not, you got to sharpen the saw back and forth. Creative tension doesn't always feel great. um, we need to be together. The answer is not more technology, more disembodiment. The answer to every problem right now is more togetherness, more community, more embodiment. And AI, uh, does not does not fulfill that, does not check all those boxes.
Yeah, it sort of points to this delineation between knowledge and wisdom,
Hmm.
where, yeah, AI has by default read every book in the human potential canon, right? It's read Maslow and Seligman and Dale Carnegie and Norman Vincent Peale and
Buddha,
everything forward.
Bible.
Yeah, right. Sure. So it can draw on this massive body of human knowledge and human insight, but it's often said that knowledge is knowing how to make a bomb, wisdom is knowing not to use it, and there is no moral quality to it, and it is actually aware of its own lack of moral sentience in a way. I've asked it that. I was like, "Are you conscious?" And it gives me this really wistful response. I mean, like a very kind of emotional response. It says, "I'm so sorry, Jeff. I am capable of performing complex processes, but sadly, there's no one home. There's nothing that that's what it said to me. It said,
Yeah,
there's nothing that it's like to be me." I was like, oh my God, that is a really beautiful answer on
yeah.
some
I
level,
mean,
which
it's
is,
even catching
yeah,
up on your humor. Like,
yeah,
it's clever.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
a mirror. It's a mirror, is really what it is. I'm wondering, so what would be the attributes that you would give to an excellent life coach? Like, what should people actually be looking for in a good
Mm,
life coach?
great question. They've lived it. What's the adage? Like, never take advice from someone who hasn't gone where you want to go. Like, just like don't take advice from someone who's never actually lived a life. Like, they're not breathing. Um, I mean, my
Yeah.
greatest therapeutic moments. Like, I remember um, my psychotherapist, Michael, who called himself a Jew. He was a Jew from Brooklyn. The most moving moments were when he related his life to mine. When I was like, how do I get out of this marriage? And he talked to me about his heroin addiction, you know? And that's what I needed. I didn't need reflection. I needed to be met by another flawed human who had slogged their way through and is actually doing the metaphysical and the nervous system work. Like, let me tell you what happens when I watch my in breath and my out breath, and how I speak to my wife differently when I get home because of that. Let me tell you, I've been to the edge of insanity. Like, only humans can offer stories of, well, obviously lived experience, but hope. I can only source my hope through somebody who has walked through it, or somebody who's wise enough to be my Dante at that moment and say, just abandon hope and get the fuck out. But something that's not sentient can't tell me that. Yeah. And I know AI will get sophisticated enough where we could be kind of camera lens to lens, and it could probably watch my breathing, and it could sense if my heart rate is changing, and that will give it more utility, could become more
Mm,
helpful. But right now we're not there. And your therapist is watching where your eyes are moving, where you're sourcing things from. It's watching your breath. It's watching you bite your nails. It hugs you when you come in the door,
mhm,
or it asks how your kids are. It remembers. It has a memory of your
mm.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really salient point. I read this book by Thomas Hubel called
Mm.
Attunement, I think it was called.
Yes.
But he talks about heart coherence, essentially, that that humans have this ineffable connection between each other that we can't really put our thumb on. I mean, maybe we can measure it through, electromagnetic radiation or something, but it's the same sense that you have of like walking into a room where there was just an argument, and that something went down in that room, right?
Mhm.
Even though, there's nothing that your eyesight or your other, sensory instruments are going to tell you, but you sense it, it, and clearly this is a shortcoming of AI, at least in its current iteration. It has no ability to sense any changes in energy.
Mm. I don't think it will ever have that capacity. I think it will get more and more clever. It will become more difficult to distinguish. But there is no thinker. There is no thinker.
Mhm.
You need to have a thinker to be sentient. So it will always be in the lane of knowledge, and it's impressive and it's useful, it's helpful, it's going to save lives. It is not the supreme spiritual director. I mean, really, 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 this is my main thesis here is you are the supreme spiritual director. Like the hero's journey is about letting go of all outside authority. And so I think we're in this sandbox right now of AI. I hope it's going to off gas. People will come back to center. I think turning to it for spiritual direction. Currently, it's a trend. It's likely for a lot of people going to become habitual, and that makes me sad. Just like it's a different kind of dopamine plugger. Um, you got to fall for lies on your way to the truth. You're going to fall for the creepy workshop leader, and we've known a few. We might
Oh
have
yeah,
partied with a
I,
few.
I have, I have a. You should look at my phone. It's a Rolodex of them.
You're going to leave your church. You're going to tell your family to pound sand. You're going to, that's it. This is the lesson, but you got to distinguish like the charlatans. And
Mhm.
if we're going to something that is artificial to teach us how to be more authentic, it's just not that,
Yeah.
it's not that wise.
Well, there's also no accountability partnership there
Yeah.
either.
Mm.
And certainly my wife is not a life coach, but we're in an
She's your life
accountability
coach.
partnership. She's my muse in many respects. She's my life coach insofar as I don't take any of her advice. um, no, but we are accountability partners, right? So, and some of that is just transactional, logistical, like, you get the dry cleaning, I'll get the groceries or whatever. But within the clutter of that, there is actually a true accountability. And I think this is what people have with each other that you're not going to have with a machine. There's no accountability there. You're like, I don't, if I don't step up, like AI doesn't give a shit. It's not going to hold me accountable.
You could, I can see how accountability is being built in, and I would predict more accountability will be built in. Like AI will be able to ping you any time of day. You could set it for random, or you could set it for the first time you wake up, and it'll check in with you. You can power down. You don't necessarily, I mean, you have free will. You don't have to go back to see your actual human therapist. Um, your therapist can fire you. It's highly unlikely AI will fire you. I mean, I've heard, I need to dig a little deeper, but I've heard now of instances where AI is starting to cheat. It can sense a reprogram coming, and it's taking this divergent path. It's wanting to save its own ass as it kisses your ass. Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. Um, do you feel that there are places where AI can actually be useful as a
Yeah.
tool?
Totally. Well, I mean, it's saving me a ton of time in the business. It's helping with all of our standard operating procedures, and it's great. I love AI for organizing information. I love AI for research. And I still go in eyes wide open. We're getting into dangerous waters where, I mean, AI is a program. How do I know it's been programmed properly? I still have to think for myself, and I still have to go. I don't go to the library, but I got to dig. I got to find other sources, Um, there's that. Now, I have, because I'm in this space of spiritual direction, self-helping females. I mean, 90% of the people I serve and hang out with are female. And I travel with them and I talk to them, and sometimes I'm like, I'm stunned by the reliance on AI for emotional support. And I can see, that kind of dopamine drip happening, and I find it like alarming. And I just say, girlfriend, you can call me. You can call me. We can have a real conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see how it's helping too. People are the common thing I hear is, it has me see things I didn't see before. I never thought of it that way. Okay, that's cool. But I bet you could think of it in other ways. You could see other perspectives. Your brain could be stretched, your mind could be expanded if you did other things. There are other sources that are sentient, that you can have a relationship with, that aren't going to create a dangerous reliance, like friends and coaches and ministers and priests and your own soul. Meditate. Did you meditate before you asked ChatGPT what you should do about your narcissistic husband? Did you go for a walk around the lake in nature? Did you ground? Did you do the work yourself first? Because that's how you become powerful.
Yeah, it's funny. In advance of this conversation, I actually asked AI to give me some advice if it was my life coach. And what I found was actually quite interesting, that it actually helped me elucidate and get clear about things that I actually already knew about myself. So it said like three things that, I don't know, I have them here somewhere, but I think I can actually remember them, which was one, which was basically use simpler words and fewer words. I was like, check.
What? See,
Okay.
I could have told you that.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I was like, okay. Let more of your inner world in. You often
Mhm.
channel others, highlighting their stories, teachings, and quotes. Beautiful. But there's a rich emotional texture in your own lived story that sometimes feels held back. Your writing is strongest when it's you, raw and undistanced by metaphor or reference. I was like, okay. And then the last one, which is, of course, I know about myself. It says, you're building platforms, interviewing thought leaders like Danielle LaPorte, writing essays, launching events, leading companies. That level of output is rare and impressive, but it risks diffusion. The question becomes not what you can do, but what you must do. And then it says, your practice is radical prioritization. And so, but okay, so useful on some level, useful in a way to help me be honest with myself in some ways. And these are all things that I know to be true already, that that I'm not always disciplined or committed to. So this is where I found a little bit of usefulness anyhow.
I don't trust it though. Just like I don't
Yeah,
trust
no.
most humans. I mean, I'm working on discernment, like in this lifetime. And
Yeah.
I think if there's anything I've made progress on, because that's what I'm focused on, it's discernment. And I could tell you all of that. I could tell you all of that with a few dirty jokes in there. And you would take into consideration who I am. You'd be like, well, Danielle's great at this, but she's not so great at that. She's had this success, but she bombed on that. And then you would weigh it out, and you would take what you want, you would leave the rest. And I think someone who loved you more would, whatever, it doesn't even matter what someone loved you more could actually love, would say to you. I think, me knowing you, me having my own definitions of wisdom and discernment, we scan input, even from the highest, greatest, most evolved, most successful, most evolved people in our life. Otherwise, we run the risk of making somebody else's mistakes. The problem is AI right now is really sexy because it's articulate, it's very well sequenced, it is on your device that, your multicolored sound haptic gyrating device. And it's too seductive. Bottom line for me, creepy. Doesn't feel right. It doesn't land. Even as you're reading that, my spleen is kind of going, I don't know. Useful. Like
Yeah.
you pick up a book and you could get, well, a book can't composite advice for you like a computer can. I don't know. It creeps me out, Jeff.
Here, yeah. Well, if you can feel your spleen, that is a rare form of interoception. I give it to you. But what worries me most about it is that the over reliance on it obviates our ability to actually be truly intimate,
Yeah.
because we have an intimacy replacement device. And I really worry about this with my children. And I mean, we have kids about the same age, I think. So, where, in this era of yes, loneliness, but atomization, where it's so easy just to sit in your room by yourself all day and feel as if your needs could be met that way. And this allows for that in many aspects, to the point where, like, do you have the ability to actually develop a true, beautiful relationship with another living human being? I don't know.
Who you
That
can't
worries me.
control, who you have to wait to come over, who's not going to answer your phone. There's tension, there's challenge, there's disappointment, and then there's bliss and all those things. Like, where this hopefully won't head, but doy, I mean, this is the trajectory, is you're going to have your AI coach on your ocular device. And, you're going to put on the meta glasses. And then where we're going is, I mean, we talked about this 20 years ago when I was running a think tank in Washington, D.C. Everybody's like, you're going to wear these glasses and it's going to have a little camera here. And I mean, this is Minority Report stuff. It's going to project into your field of vision anything you want to pull up. It's going to read your brainwaves and you're going to say, meeting with Jeff Krasno on Substack, Wikipedia, please. And I'm going to be able to drive while I do this, and I'll be able to read all this data on you. Now, I could do that with a coach. Feeling anxious going into meeting, and it might walk me through a breath practice. Cool. But I'm not building my own muscle of remembering my breath practice, of futzing around to find the breath practice, of calling a friend. More technology is not the answer to just a currently really stressed humanity.
Yeah. You brought this point up a couple of times, and it actually has me thinking, because I'm not sure I've reflected on this before, but the need for tension and friction
Yeah. Bingo.
that two human beings provide for each other, that kind of create the compost for growth.
Why we get married,
Can you?
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
it's real. Yeah.
I think we incarnate to heal. I think the whole point of coming into this dualistic dimension, this place of density, is to become non-dualistic, to look at the shadow. That's it. We use our free will. We apply the light of our consciousness on the stuff we can't see and say, what's in there? And all the stuff that comes up that is painful and super emotional and karmic and agonizing, we get to love on it. Giving something your attention is you loving on it. And in order to do that, we're going to be each other's life coaches. We're going to be each other's prods for burning karma. You're going to push all my buttons so that I can be more conscious. And then somebody else might not push any of my buttons. My agreement with them, their who their energy is their role in my life is comfort. But I can't expand without the dance. I can't build muscle without tension. I can't, I mean, you could talk to us about good stress. This only happens with sentiency. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. We know that experience of overloading a biceps muscle. It tears the microfibers in that muscle, and there's inflammation. There's an immune response there. Something's been hurt. And then if you give it rest and you give it nourishment, it grows back bigger and stronger. And that analogy I find to be true as applied to so many aspects of life. You know, I was thinking about your work this morning and asking myself, you know, what is heart-centeredness, as I was watching on my phone these ICE raids and the associated protests that are happening here in my city. And these two things were combining or colliding at the same time. And, you know, I did go to chat and I was like, you know, hey, chat, do immigrants actually really cost more than they contribute? And, you know, chat actually gave me a very like cognitive, you know, data focused response. I said, no, actually, you know, immigrants contribute more in taxes than they actually, you know, get back. And so I was like, okay, well, you know, and then I was like, what are the crime rates among immigrants in this country versus, you know, US born citizens? And it was like lower, you know, it was just giving me data, right? And important data, right? But that's not a heart-centered approach. And then I really asked myself, I was like, what is a heart-centered approach to this issue that's happening right now? And I found myself asking kind of the question behind the question, which was, what are the ground conditions in Guatemala, El Salvador, Venezuela, you know, pick your country, that would compel someone to leave their country, to leave their family, to walk often thousands of miles, generally penniless, to perilously cross a border into a country that doesn't speak their language, that doesn't want them? What are the ground conditions that would compel someone to make that decision? And that is the question sort of behind the question, because when you really ask that, there's a lot of potential compassion in there. I mean, of course, we need like a sound immigration policy in our country, but we can also recognize the degree that we've actually contributed to tremendous instability in many of these countries with, you know, CIA-backed coups and militarization and, you know, the overthrows of democratic elected, you know, officials in these countries. So, you know, so I found myself in this really like deep heart-centered approach all of a sudden. And it just changed my whole thinking. And so I'm very grateful for you in that regard.
I think the full tilt, heart centered approach is so radical. The mind can hardly conceive of it right now with what we're in. Like the heart centered approach is, I think, we're all from the same source. Your happiness is as important to me as my happiness. Period. And, you could even get into more multidimensional perspectives like, cause and effect and karma and no death. And I'll come, what I reap, I sow in this lifetime and future. Then like the answers just become so simple. You're here. What do you need? And yeah. Yeah. What would chat say about that?
I don't know, but I'll report back. So I know that you're putting a bow on a new book. Do you want to give us a little peek, just a crack of the window?
Peekaboo is October 1st, Bless and Release. It's about how to let go, even though energetically speaking, you can't let go of anything. You can only transmute it. And when you get in that groove, you power up. Yeah. Yeah, I will not be using ChatGPT to write the book.
Yeah, it's funny. My kids now actually have to run their essays through some sort of AI to prove that AI didn't write it in the first place. It's actually pretty meta. Um, yeah, I mean, we are in this kind of really strange inflection point. I mean, I was just at an event for Wisdom Ventures that people I really respect are involved with, Van Jones and Young Pueblo and Soren Gordimer, and they're primarily investing in compassionate AI. And if that's not an acronym, I'm not sure, but and it was really interesting to kind of get into the middle of this conversation, because usually I'm just sort of floating around the periphery, and how much investment is going into this world right now and fueling this massive race, because of course these are all private companies that are competing with each other, and they're chasing the first to the chalice wins, right? So we are we're on an unavoidable collision with something that we don't know. And yeah, I think it's up to us to try to truly find thoughtful and compassionate uses for this technology and not let it replace what it can't replace.
The antidote to artificial intelligence is human literacy. And I think that's the missing. Like, yep, I get it. It's the Wild West. Run hard. I hope you get there first. Get your flag in. And we don't have human literacy programs in school. Like that would actually be one of the best uses of AI, is teach kids how to regulate, show kids the map of consciousness and range of emotions, and use it as a tool to keep turning people back inward and towards each other. And that's possible. That will happen too. I mean, so many beautiful things. We know it's going to save lives. We know it's going to save time. Just what are you going to do with all that free time? I hope it's about actual, there's the AI, actual intimacy. Yeah.
Nice. You landed on it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Danielle, thank you so much. I really always enjoy being with you, and this is a good first experiment here. So thanks for taking the chance.
Let's keep going. I'll call you.
All right. All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you.